Hey there, my name is Nicole Lynn, and this is my channel where I talk about all things Disney, duh. And welcome to Own Your Magic Wednesdays, where I talk about the Disney college program, whether it's tips, stories, you name it. And this week I'm taking a more serious direction for this channel than I normally do. So I really just wanted to sit down, have a heart-to-heart with you guys, and talk about how do we cope with losing our Disney programs. I personally was a part of the Disney Spring 2020 program when it got canceled, but I've noticed that a lot of people are still struggling and still posting on the pages how sad, upset, and how much of a hard time they are still having with this. So I do want to say this video is for really anybody who had a Disney program, so I'm not just talking about Disney college program, I'm also talking about professional internships, you know, the Disney International program or the cultural exchange. I'm talking about culinary program. Maybe you're a furloughed cast member and you've just found out your furlough has been extended. Really, anyone who right now has lost an opportunity with Disney or is feeling a significant loss because of the pandemic and COVID-19. What I want from this video is basically to sit down and kind of very quickly explain my personal story. But more importantly, I want to get into some tips as to how do we deal with this? How do we cope with this? How do we get through the season of pure, unadulterated disappointment? And I think it's kind of funny that the saying, like the phrase for COVID-19 has become, we're all in this together, because naturally, instantly what pops in my head is High School Musical, and I like do the little dance to myself. But it's so true, friends. So like as a true like East High Wildcat, we are all in this together. We are going to get through this together, and that's what I hope this video does for you. Before we really dive into this video, I want to be clear that I am not a professional. I'm not a professional healthcare provider, professional counselor, nothing like that. But these are just things that have helped me get through it. We will talk about this more in the video, but I would definitely recommend if you think you need it, please seek out professional help. Please do that. But I am not a professional, but I do think it's important that we discuss this because not only is the world facing a worldwide pandemic right now, we are facing a national mental health crisis. And that has to do with, again, a lot of people are facing loss, you know, people are losing jobs, things are being canceled, but also on top of that, a lot of us are isolated. We're not around people all the time. We can't reach out and hug and physically touch people like we used to, and that's not good for our mental health. Some of us are locked up in our house all day and we stare at the same wall all day long because we don't have anywhere to go. So I just think it's important that we have this conversation, that we sit down, we have a talk, and we say, and I tell you, hey, I get it. I know what you're going through. You're not crazy. It's going to be okay. Really briefly wanted to explain a little bit of my story. This isn't the story of my program being canceled. I already did a video on that. If you guys want to hear all about me being down there in Florida when my program got canceled, you guys can check out that video here. But basically, this is more post, like when I got home from the Disney college program. You know, they very abruptly told us like, hey, your program's canceled. We're sending you all home. I went back to Oklahoma because that's where my husband was finishing up his degree. And you know, guys, I expected to be really upset. I expected to like mope and cry and watch Netflix for weeks, but that's not what I did. And more or less, I think it's because I felt like I wasn't allowed to be upset because, you know, the world was going through a lot at that point and there were just way worse things happening. You know, I would see on the news that like, you know, thousands of people were dying of COVID every single day, and healthcare providers didn't have the proper PPE and all of those things. So I felt like, who was I to be upset that like my Disney college program got canceled? And so basically I tried to have a healthy attitude and pretend like I was fine and say, you know what, it could be worse. Like, there are worse things in life type of thing. But it really wasn't a healthy attitude, but we'll get more into that. But that was honestly, I was just kind of trying to distract myself with other things, like filing for unemployment, which was exhausting, and trying to find another job, and just literally doing anything and everything to just not think about it and not talk about it and pretend like I was fine, even though I definitely wasn't. Because, you know, guys, I was facing a lot of disappointment at the time. You know, my college program had been canceled. I'd been sent home halfway through it. I was in consideration for a professional internship, which was a dream job, Disney VIP tours, and that got canceled. So there was no possibility of a future there. I couldn't find a job, and I had just graduated from college, you know, a few months before in December 2019. And, you know, I'd worked my butt off for the last 4 years to earn this degree, and now all of a sudden there's no jobs, and I'm drowning in student loans, and you know, all of these things. This is a lot to handle. This is a lot of weight, and I was pretending to be fine, and I was pretending to be like it wasn't a big deal when it kind of was, and that is a big disappointment. It is a big deal. So back in June, I actually went to visit my family in Illinois, and I ended up having a full-blown panic attack. I had never had one before. Literally, I woke up in the middle of the night thinking that something was wrong. You know, I thought there was an intruder in the house. I thought the house was on fire. And I ended up waking up Daniel, and for like 10 to 15 minutes had a full-blown panic attack. Could not stop, could not breathe, could not stop crying, like really bad. And I had never dealt with chronic anxiety before in my life, but so this was the first time, and I was like, oh, that was bad. But even when that happened, I tried to like push it away. I tried to rationalize it, like, well, I'm a little stressed right now, so it makes sense why I'd be going through that. Then by the end of June, I ended up having 2 more panic attacks, so 3 for the month of June. And by that point, I was like, okay, I think something's going on. I think there are some things here I'm not dealing with. So I ended up having to reach out and getting some professional help. Thankfully, that was available to me through church and some resources that we had there, and I was able to talk to somebody and get help. So what my counselor taught me, and this was so helpful and so beneficial, is that, you know, anytime us as people, as humans, we experience significant loss in our life, we go through grief. And grief is usually associated with death and like losing a loved one. But like I said, it's not just when you lose people that we love. It's any significant loss that we experience in life. So if you guys have ever taken like an intro psychology class, I know I took AP Psych in college, but there are 5 stages to grief. So there is denial, which I am the queen of denial. And then there is depression. There is anger. There is bargaining, and then the last stage is acceptance. So what my counselor explained to me is that grief is not just a 5-step program. You don't go step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you reach acceptance, yay, I'm done grieving. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. It's a lot more messy. It's a lot more complicated than that. Grief is actually something that we kind of fluctuate. It's like a roller coaster ride where like one day you can be way on top of the hill and you can be fine, and other days you can be really sad, really low, and other days you can be really angry, but then you wake up the next morning and you're like, I'm okay today. Whereas the next day you wake up and you're like, I can't get out of bed, I'm too depressed. Like, it's literally all over the place. It is so messy. It is so confusing. So that is the number one thing about grief, is that it is terrible. It is absolutely the worst. 1 out of 5 stars. Would not recommend grief. However, the second thing I want to tell you guys about grief is that grief is necessary. It's not fun. Nobody likes it. However, you have to accept that I'm not a robot. I have emotions, and I have to deal with these emotions. And anytime that you are facing something that is so big and so devastating to you in your life and your future, it is completely valid for you to be upset about it. It is completely okay that you are not okay. And the last thing I want to say to you guys about grief is that grief is temporary. This is the hardest one right now, because I don't know about you guys, I don't really feel like this feels very temporary. We live in a completely different world than we did 6 months ago. But this is our new reality, and it doesn't feel temporary, but it is, guys. This is a season, and we are going to just have to get through it, fight through it together, but it is going to end. It is going to get better, and it is going to be okay. So with that being said, and now that we've realized, like, you might be grieving, you might be facing significant loss right now, how do we deal with that? How do we cope with that? that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about today. And just, again, not professional advice, just really as a friend who understands what you're going through, here's what I would suggest, and here's kind of what helped me and what I hope will help you as well. The first thing is to accept that you are not okay. The moment that you let yourself accept the fact that, you know what, I have a lot of bad things going on. I got a lot of negative emotions in here. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm confused, I'm all of the things. The moment you just say it and let it be okay, that is where you start making progress. Denial does not get you anywhere faster. In fact, it slows down the problem. It turns one problem into like 10 problems. Do not stay in denial like I did. I'm the queen of denial. Don't do that. It is not healthy. And for you to be in a relationship with somebody who is annoyed by the fact you have emotions, that you have to pretend to be around, okay to be around these people, that's not healthy. That's not good for anybody. It is okay to not be okay. However, the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is to please get help. And there is a fine line between being sad and disappointed and being depressed. There is a fine line between being a little stressed out and having full-blown anxiety and like panic attacks. There is a point where you need to get help. And that is up to you to recognize that in you. When is this not normal? When is this not okay anymore? And when do you need to say, hey, I think I need help? These can be signs as simple as your hygiene isn't as good. Maybe you're not brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, you're not putting on clean clothes every single day. And I know that part of that can be just the fact that, you know, we are isolated, you're not going out in public like you used to, but it's more or less like you don't care enough to take care about yourself anymore, so you're not. It can also be things like you don't find joy in the things that you used to. Maybe it's not even like you don't want to get out of bed. It's like you physically cannot get out of bed. You just can't do it. You physically cannot stop crying. Maybe you find yourself having inappropriate emotions, like laughing at times where it's not appropriate to be laughing. You're crying at times when it's not appropriate to be crying. If you find yourself unable to just physically function, if you cannot sleep even though you are so exhausted, these are all signs that are kind of pointing out that something more serious is going on at the time and that you need to get help. So I do want to say that I have a resource for you guys down in the show notes. It is a charity called Not Okay Is Okay. They have articles on there and resources for you from anything from bullying, eating disorders, depression, anxiety. But also what I want to say is please ask for help and please reach out and get help. Please do not be ashamed. Please do not be embarrassed. And what I want to put up on the screen for you guys right now is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number. This is a 24/7 service. If at any point you feel hopeless, lost, like there's no point and you just really think you need help, please call this number, guys. It is 1-800-273-8255. And I just want to, I'm looking at you right now, and I am saying that you are important, that you are loved more than you know you are, that you can change the world. It is going to be okay, and that you would be missed if you were not here. So please, 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 if you need help, ask for help. Okay, so I know that kind of got heavy and intense, but I just felt like it was so important to include that in there for you guys. If you cannot get a counselor, if you cannot get professional help, because for some of you it's not fiscally an option right now, financially that is just not a choice, but you still, I would recommend you find somebody to talk to. And I don't know what it is as somebody who has done counseling. I don't know why, but sitting in front of a human being and saying what you are feeling on the inside and getting it out in the open is so healing. It is so therapeutic. So find somebody in your life that you can sit down and you can talk to about, and make sure that this person is somebody who is there to listen. This is not somebody who is going to try and fix all your problems. This is not somebody who is going to then turn around and talk to you about all their problems and you're going to feel like you're not listened to. or they're going to interrupt you a lot while you're talking. This is not somebody who's like, okay, seriously, like you're still upset about this, like you're still sad that Disney got canceled. Those are not your people. Do not find somebody who is going to make you feel like a burden. Do not talk to somebody who is not going to make you feel important. And do not find somebody who is going to make you feel like you are a problem to solve. That's not what you're looking for. You are looking for somebody who is simply going to sit there, listen to you, and say, okay, I hear you. I'm here for you. You are not crazy. That's what you need. And I know that it's hard right now with social distancing. So if you can't go grab coffee with a friend, if you can't, meet somebody from your church and go for a walk, find somebody that you can talk to over Skype, over, Zoom, some way to sit in front of a person, talk to them, and just know that somebody's listening to you. So I know that I said that it is okay for us to have all these negative emotions floating around in the world, and that is true. It is okay to feel those things. It's okay to be sad, angry, upset, whatever, all the things you're feeling. However, you do need to find healthy ways of coping with those and healthy ways of like getting those emotions out and like wrestling through them. So what works for me is not going to work for you. Personally, I know big game changers for me were things like exercising. I try and exercise every single day now, and that gives me 30 minutes to focus on something else. It's a huge stress reliever. It's a reason to get up, get dressed, and go do something for the day. Other therapeutic things for me are listening to music, sitting down, like thank you Taylor Swift for releasing the Folklore album, like yes, but just sitting down, having a cup of coffee, listening to some music and unwinding. Again, it's so relaxing. But maybe you're different than me. Maybe you like to journal. Maybe writing things down makes you feel better. Maybe you like to read. Go read a book. Really anything that you can find that helps you focus on something else for a little bit, or just is a way to get emotion out and in a healthy way. Again, we're looking for healthy ways of dealing with this, not things like doing drugs, not getting out of bed and watching Netflix all day. But I would say that another tip I have for you guys is to try and laugh every single day. Try and find something that makes you smile. Maybe don't spend all day doing this. There are things that I have done. I've started watching channels like Drunk History. I find Drunk History so funny. BuzzFeed Unsolved, I find those guys super funny. My hubby and I, every single night, we both collect funny memes and stuff on Pinterest. So we will spend a few minutes before we fall asleep looking at Pinterest and laughing at the funnies we collected for the day. Laughter is also very therapeutic. So find things that make you laugh every single day. And then my next tip is to get offline. So I don't know about you guys, but my normal habit was I would wake up and the first thing I would do is reach for my phone and I would scroll through my news feed. And the last thing I would do before I went to bed was again scroll through my news feed. Well, right now there's a lot of not so happy things happening in the world. So our news feed is filled with scary topics of, death and, people losing their jobs and riots and all these crazy things happening in our world right now. There's not as much positivity out there, it feels, right now. So that's fine to be a well-informed citizen. I'm not saying that you should go be a cave person and reject society. I'm not saying do that. More or less what I'm saying is that don't let that be the way you start your day, and don't let that be the way you end your day. Try and do, like I said, where I wake up, I go do my 30-minute workout, I eat breakfast, and then maybe I'll look at my phone then. But that's not how you want to start your mindset out. Maybe you wake up and you read a book. Maybe you wake up, you do some yoga. Maybe you wake up and you knit a sweater. I don't know what it is, but make sure also before you go to bed, maybe you watch a show on Netflix and you don't look at social media. Maybe you journal before you go to bed. Do something before and after bed, because you don't want to start your day that way, and then you don't want to go into your dreams at night with all these negative things floating around that are causing stress before your day has even got started or before you fall asleep. I hope all these tips were super helpful, beneficial for you guys. And what I do want to say is that I know that this is tough. I know that a lot of us are going through a rough patch right now. But what I do want to say is that I sincerely hope something good is going to come out of this for you. Because you've lost your program, I know that it's hard right now. Some of you never even got to go. Some of you are just really missing all your friends that you made while you were there. It's hard. I'm not gonna try and sugarcoat it. I wish that I had like some magical words that I could say right now to make it better, to make you feel better. And the reality is that it is just going to be hard, that this is just going to kind of be a rough patch right now. But what I sincerely hope for each and every one of you, that there are good things coming to you, that I'm just hoping there are opportunities that are going to become available to you because you're not there right now, because it got canceled, and there are things that you're going to learn. There are going to be opportunities that you gain because of this loss. That's what I sincerely hope for each and every one of you. And above all, I just want to say that I know a lot of us feel isolated right now. I know a lot of us feel hurt and scared and lost right now, but you're not alone. That's the most important thing, is that so many people are just like you. They know exactly how you're feeling. They know exactly what you're going through, and it is going to be okay. And I know it's a cheesy way to end it, but I'm going to, again, end it on the classic good old East High School. We are all in this together, friends. Okay, so that's going to do it for Own Your Magic Wednesday. Make sure you guys join me tomorrow for Disney Hot Takes Thursday, where I will be discussing Frozen versus Tangled. It's going to be real fun, real interesting. And speaking of tomorrow, remember that together we can create a big, bright, beautiful tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching, friends, and I will see you then. Bye!